This is Jeff Nguyen you see in your lower left on the behind the goggles. Jeff, can you tell us where you are? I can tell you're in front of a burning house.
Yeah, obviously we are on Oak Park right now, and to give you a point, it's Kelwood and Churchwood, and right here you've got a couple of homes that are burning on this corner right now. You can hear the wind that's roaring through here, and as Ken Kohler shows you these trees, you can see how these palm trees are swaying and the wind is just ripping through here. As I walk through here, you can see this home at the corner is burned, and the home next door is burning as well. You can see that there is basically, at this point, just a slab is left here. What used to be the satellite dish for this home is on the ground. A number of fire engines out here, firefighters valiantly trying to put out the flames with their hoses. And to give you a sense of just how hot it is, take a look at this RAV4 right here. This is the covering for the spare tire, and it has basically melted. And that is how much heat is radiating from this house. Ken, if you can, let's turn around. You can see just across the street, there's another house, and this one is on fire. As we stand here, Ken, don't go in there. I don't want you to. The ground is very hot. There's broken glass. On top of that, you can see some of the embers that are shooting into the air. You know, the thing about this neighborhood is that it is surrounded by trees, and I want to see if one of the fire department guys can talk to us. Do you have time to talk to us, sir?
No, sir. Sorry.
So obviously, the fire department doesn't really have time to talk to us at this point because they've got a lot going on right now. They are basically in defensive mode right now. You can hear some of the engines here, and you can get a sense of what is going on. Now, on this driveway, you've got this firefighter. He is running this fire hose, and at this point, he's got to try to reposition himself. But there is just a number of water hoses being poured onto this house. At this point, you know that this house is not livable anymore. So what they're trying to do is contain the flames here, because the last thing you want to do is have them continuously jump from one house to the next, and that is exactly what has been happening right now. You know, Jeff, earlier when we were driving here, I was listening to some of your reporting. You were talking about how embers can fly sometimes a mile, sometimes a mile and a half. And Ken, if you pan up here, you can see some of the embers that are shooting into the air, and that's what makes these fires so dangerous, because when the wind goes through here, even though you've got these streams of water trying to use to douse these homes, you can see all of the embers shooting into the air. And you can see just how hard this work is, because when you look at the water that's pouring off of that house, that water is super dark. Okay, let's back up a little bit so they can have a little bit of space. And as we're looking here, and you're seeing these firefighters running these lines, we're gonna follow one of them right now. And you can see it's just back-breaking work, and they're doing it uphill. And now, you know, it's almost like whack-a-mole, right? Because you can't really focus your attention on any one point. So while he's working here, he's got his colleague right there. Ken, if you can pan to the right and show some of the firefighters right there. And then on top of that, Ken, if you can just pivot to your right, look at the hillside. And now we've got some of these embers raining down on us. So, hey Ken, let's back up just a little bit so we can give these guys a little bit of space to work. But while we're looking down this way, Ken, if you can pan to the hillside, you can see just how the hillsides are burning right now, in addition to what's going on. And that's why it's so easy for these flames to just kind of move about in such a erratic behavior.
Jeff, it looks like it's LA County Fire that is with you there, and if I got that right, it's LA County 36, which means that they're out of Carson. So on top of all of this, you have firefighters that are negotiating areas that they're not familiar with. They all know how to fight fire, but knowing how to get there, knowing the municipal water supply, working with other firefighters, it is just a valiant effort. Can you, from what you're hearing, Jeff, can you hear what the plan is? Where are they trying to stop the fire?
You know, to be honest with you, I don't think you can really have a game plan right now because the wind is shifting constantly. And you're right, Jeff. These guys are from LA County. We heard some collapsing noise And we're gonna surmise that that collapsing noise came from the house that you are seeing right now. You know, it's kind of hard to have a game plan when the conditions are so erratic, because at one moment the embers are going to the west, and then the next moment they shift and they go to the east. So it's really hard to kind of predict where they're going to go. And as we walk a little bit farther, you can see, Ken, over here, this car alarm is going off, and you can see why, because this used to be a van and now it is on fire. In addition to the van that's on fire, on top of that is a tree that's burning as well. So game plan, I think, is just try to put out the first thing you see, Jeff. And as the wind is blowing towards me, you know what I mean? So you can hear the level of urgency from these guys, because they're trying to just hit everything that pops up in front of them. Okay, so we're going to back up just a little bit when we hear that popping noise.
And we certainly also don't want to get in their way. Now, Jeff, you said that you're on You're on Churchwood Drive. You're north of Canaan Road, right?
You know, to be honest with you,
I think
I'm not sure in terms of where I am in relation to Canaan. I am off of Canaan, that's for sure.
Yeah, you're north of Canaan. This is where Oak Hills.
To be quite frank,
yeah, this is where Oak Hills Elementary School is. Los Arcos Drive, Kellwood Court. That's where you are. You're on the corner of Churchwood and Kellwood, you said. So from the looks of, I mean, this is a relatively small neighborhood that looks to me to be probably comprised of about, I don't know, maybe 60, 70 homes. And if they've got to stop that fire from moving south and jumping Canaan Road into an area that would be just a much, much larger subdivision of homes. Not to put any lesser value on the homes that are burning here, not by a long shot, but you have to have the big perspective of trying to not allow this devastation to take out an entire part of Ventura County.
Well, you know, when you were talking about these small developments, you're right. You know, a lot of these developments came up probably in the 90s or the early aughts. And so, you know, developers are trying to make the most of what little land is available. You can see just how small the front yards are. I mean, there's really no front yards, so they really pack these houses really tightly next to each other. And when you do that, and then you have trees in between, you can see how easily fires can spread. I mean, as some of these roofs are caving in or burning, you can hear, you know, this sort of bass sort of sound. Like if you've got your bass module turned up in your sound system, you know, because it's just, some of those materials are kind of fragile, right?
Right.
And when you have heat this intense, I mean, anything's going to be fragile.
Without a doubt, and it's the wind that moves through those structures that causes that sound as well. And you know, we hear the fire department harping about brush clearance around homes in areas that are up against wilderness, and yet we see homes built right on top of each other, Jeff, as you so, you know, pointedly reported, with palm trees in between the homes, almost like matchsticks. So it really defies explanation.
Yeah, you know, well, I mean, I think one of the explanations that you pointed out, Jeff, is a very astute one, in the sense that, look, we're looking at this roof right now, right? A part of that has collapsed. The other side, the fire has basically punched a hole into it, right? So with the heat that's in there and the wind that's shifting through, you know, you don't have to be a physicist to understand what all of that does, right? So the air in there is hot already. You've got more air going through, feeding it, and that's why you are hearing this sort of thud, thud sound that rips through. And right now, the wind is really picking up, and you can just see just how intense those flames are. And you can just see how those palm fronds are bending, as well as the oxygen from the air pushing into basically a wind tunnel that's feeding into that fire. So whatever air that's going in there is maximized, if you will, because the intensity of the concentration of oxygen that's feeding into that attic, you can just see the effects of that, Jeff.
Yeah, perfectly explained.
May I grab you, sir?
I'm sorry?
May I grab you for some quick questions? Do you have time?
Sure.
do me a favor, talk to me about the strategy right now, what's going on with your crews.
Right now, we're trying to protect exposures by stopping the fire from spreading from one house to the next. With these high winds, it's really hard with the ember cast that's happening. It's really hard for us to save some of these homes. So what we're doing is putting a water curtain in between some homes to stop the fire from leapfrogging and catching other homes on fire.
Basically, you're in a defensive mode to make sure they don't go any farther, correct?
That's affirmative. That's correct.
Hey, Chief, I'm going to rotate you this way. I'm going to ask my colleague Ken to swing around this way so that we can have this in the back view. Talk to me about what's going on here, because there's a hole that's punched in that roof. Every so often you hear like this thudding sound coming through because the air is pushing through. Am I right in that?
That's correct. So what we have is we have an attic fire here. The ember cast has gotten into the attic, probably through the outside vents, and it's casting, as you can see, it's starting to burn very rapidly. And so what we're trying to do now is save this home in front of it from catching on fire from the ember cast that's coming out from that, or the fire that's coming out from that home.
Is it fair for me to ask you what the strategy is at this point?
Right now, we're in full defensive mode. We're getting more units in here to help us. When we first arrived here, when our LA County units first arrived here, we only had 5 engines, and we have about 300 homes here. And when we pulled in here, we had about 30 homes that were fully involved in fire. And so I started dispatching my units to protect whatever homes they could, and immediately radioed for more resources. And so now those resources have shown up. So now it looks like we're making some good headway and being able to stop this fire from continuing to spread down to further homes.
You said 30 homes were burning when you first got here?
Approximately 30 homes, yes.
When the volume is that high, I mean, is the strategy basically we're going to hit whatever we see in front of us?
That's affirmative. What we do is we try to catch the nearest home that's not on fire, and we make the stop there, and we work backwards.
Jeff, can you ask him
how much more resources are you asking for?
We're asking for an additional 2 strike teams, which is another 10 engines. And so right now, I think we just had, I believe El Segundo and Redondo Beach show up. So they're helping us out over here, and they're really making an impact with their resources here. So this is really helping us out.
Chief, thank you for your time. Thank you for being so gracious. I know you got a lot going, so I'm going to let you do. I'm sorry, go ahead, Jeff. You got a question for me?
Because that chief is with LA County, any chance of getting LA County to fly this?
I'm sorry.
Any chance of getting LA County to use their helicopters?
My colleague Jeff Michael is asking because you are from LA County, is there any chance to get LA County to put the birds in the air tonight to help with this?
These winds are so high that I don't think we're going to be able to use our assets tonight. These winds are just way too high.
Okay.
When you say they're way too high, it's too dangerous to fly, the smoke conditions?
It's too dangerous to fly. Now, I'm not at the command post. They may make a decision to fly our helicopters tonight because we really can't use them. But like I said, with these winds at these dangerously high speeds, it's really hard for them to navigate and drop water. Even their water drop won't be sufficient because it'll just blow away in the wind.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for being so gracious to talk to me. All the best to you. Stay safe tonight. Thank you so much, Chief. So there you have it. You know, flying is probably not a possibility. It's just too tough to fly in these conditions. And then again, even if you try to make a pinpoint drop, by the time the payload leaves the aircraft, by the time it gets to the ground, it's probably spread out too thinly to really be all that effective. And that's why you see some of these guys just doing the old-fashioned back-breaking work of running these lines right up to these properties and trying to get them from spread. I mean, it's just kind of miraculous to stand here at this corner and see what's going on. You know, Ken has been showing you this house since we first got here, and now it's basically down to its wooden frame is all that's left of it. And right across the street, you know, some of these houses are sort of intact. Some of them may not be intact. But what the battalion chief told us when we got here is that when he and his team arrived, 30 homes were burning as soon as they jumped out of their trucks. Can you imagine that? So the level of intensity that you're dealing with, and you know, you kind of have to pick and choose. And the ones that they can save, they save, and the ones that they have to let go, they have to let go, and that's the bottom line there, Jeff.
Exactly, and he said they arrived only with 2 strike teams, which would be 10 engines. They're asking for 2 more. When you have 10 engines, there's no way you can attack 30 homes that are burning. And for all of you at home watching this and worrying for people you may know in this area, this is how fast things change. The last information we got was that 2 homes in this area were involved, and the fire battalion chief quickly brought that up to 30. And if he got the information that there were 30 homes burning, that means that there are likely many more than that. What a terribly
Yeah,
grim
Jeff, you know,
sign
you were
there.
talking about,
Go ahead.
forgive me, I didn't mean to step on you, but you were talking about, you know, the disparity of need versus resources. And Ken, if you can just pivot to your left, look, here are two fire engines, right? You can clearly see two streams running right now, but when you have these two streams running at the intensity that they are, and you have, we're talking about disparity of resources versus need, and then here's the need, right? So those two streams at this point, you know, valiant, but the best they can hope for is that these flames do not go beyond where they are right now. And if you want to get a sense of just how devastating this fire is, as I'm standing here, this home right in front of me, right? Dry walls are all gone. You are now looking at the wooden frame of this house. Whatever insulation it once had is melted, and it is right by the doorway. Ken, if you could just pan to your left just a little bit, and I think Ken is showing you just the intensity of the embers that are being pushed by these winds right now. And so they leave that home, they go wherever they go capriciously, and whatever they land on is whatever they land on. And as dry as it has been in Southern California in recent years, capricious is what we're talking about, because there is no rhyme or reason. You know, if it lands on something that's dry, that is flammable, this is what you get. And as we look in here, you can see this house in this darkness is completely illuminated. And the reason it's illuminated is because there is fire in every inch of this house. The windows are blown out where I guess that used to be a kitchen or a living room. And over here on this side, you can see that it's backlit as this roof is caving in. So you can just get a sense of just how intense it is, because, you know, we are not even using our camera light. And what you are looking at here is natural lighting. And unfortunately, natural lighting are the flames that are burning from this home.
You know, these are
Jeff, would you like to?
These are lives. These are all.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yes, these are all people's lives, and we're so, we apologize if it sounds callous the way we are reporting on this about the physics of the fire, the water versus the fire. We realize that there are families that left these homes hoping for the best, and wherever you are tonight, if you're watching our coverage, we offer our sincere condolences that if you live in this neighborhood, that you're losing the homes you built, not just the houses, the homes, the lives that have grown up in these homes, and we understand as best we can what that means. We in Southern California have experienced a lot of devastation from fires, not just earthquakes, but fires and floods, and it's repeating itself at a rate that we've never seen before. It's happening. There's no longer a fire season in Southern California. It's now 12 months, and these men and women who are fighting fires like this know that all too well. Now, where Jeff is.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jeff.
You know, I do want to join you in echoing your sentiment for the sympathy and sorrow that we wish to offer the families involved here. You know, sometimes we do talk about the mechanics of what's going on, and I think the mechanics is important, because here you have people who have signed up to protect all of us, and that's where the mechanics comes in, right? The science behind this. You know, if it were not for the experience and the knowledge of these brave men and women who are standing here,
oh my gosh,
under these conditions, while their families are at home wherever they are, you know, to put themselves on the line to do this, you know, I think it's important for folks at home to understand the gravity of the situation. You know, by no means do we not realize that these are homes, these are dreams. You know, there is a reason why we as Americans talk about the American dream, because this is what we work towards, right? This is a symbol of our achievement. This is a symbol of our aspirations. And right now, you know, this community is going to have to come together, and it already has. I mean, I can tell you earlier when I was up in Camarillo, you know, people were standing shoulder to shoulder because they were ready to help each other. And at this point, It is terribly tragic for the people who own these homes, who built these homes and built their dreams and their lives around them. But, you know, hopefully they all got out safely without injuries. You know, we do understand how important. Go ahead.
Jeff, that was a question I did have. When you were going in, did you see anybody who didn't have turnouts on? Did you see anybody who appeared to be homeowners?
I want to say about half a mile away, I saw people packing up and leaving, but where we are, we only see professionals. And by professionals, I mean firefighters and journalists who are here documenting what is happening, documenting what is going on with this community, and documenting the work that is being done by the fire department, namely the LA County Fire Department, trying to save some of these homes and trying to keep these flames from going on beyond where they have gone.
Okay, Jeff Nguyen.
But to your question, we have not seen any...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Forgive me, Jeff, go ahead.
I'm just marking your location. You're at Churchwood and Kelwood, and you're in an area that is north of Canaan Road. It's bordered to the southeast, I guess I would say, by a elementary school, the name I had just a moment ago. And in that area, we also have Tom Waite. So Jeff, I'm going to give you a chance to reposition while we go to Tom Waite.